Attack 2024 champion, Mena RD.
And that'll do it. Your champion, East Coast Throwdown 2024. Give it up for Itabashi Zangi!
Well, Mena won First Attack, and Itazan won ECT. So, it should be about time for everyone to start complaining about grapplers. Soon it'll be, grapplers shouldn't be top tier. Well, let's get into that. People complain about characters all the time, especially when they win. So, what makes this instance so different? Well, grapplers are hated regardless of their results. From Jaewong to Jiuna, Kizuke to Nemo, pro players and influencers alike all have problems with this archetype, grapplers. Now, I understand a lot of this is just theatrics for the camera, but the fact still remains that dozens of members of the FGC feel grapplers are this awful archetype that never should be top tier. Now, I play big bodies, so I'm going to this, and I'm going to be biased as hell. So, let's start by defining what is a grappler. Well, a grappler is a huge muscly man with giant arms who picks you up and slams you to the ground. They can also be a giant man with huge muscly arms who takes you to heaven before slamming you to the ground. But grapplers don't discriminate. They can also be little girls who grow huge muscly arms and slam you to the ground. But yeah, grapplers are obviously liked for their power and design, but what is the actual gameplay like for them? Well, the grappler is an archetype of fighting game character defined by low mobility and high damage. There are a few subcategories to grapplers, but that's a debate for another time. One thing they almost always have in common is that they have lower than average mobility, and their primary offensive special move is the command grab. In order to enforce this command grab mix-up, they're often given special moves such as Ladiva's headbutt to enforce the strike throw. Usually though, since they're slow, they're also given mobility skills like hammerfall in order to supplement that. The archetype, as I've defined it, already has clearly shown weaknesses. They're big and slow, so it'd be easy to zone them and lame them out. So why do people hate this class, this archetype? Well, people don't like grapplers and feel they shouldn't be top tier for many reasons. Now, if we analyze the game development process when creating a fighting game character, you as a developer would need to develop their strength and balance this character's strengths accordingly. If a character, the grappler, is large and does a lot of damage, they should be slow, so they need to work to get that damage. They should also be easier to hit so that you can have damage parity. Since they are doing more damage than you, you need to hit them multiple times and be able to hit them multiple times before they can hit you. Therefore, you give them a larger hitbox and slower buttons in neutral. Well, if grapplers are already nerfed out the gate, then there's no way they should end up top tier, right? Well, what's up with these guys then? The Shoto is another fighting game archetype. While the grappler is limited by mobility, the Shoto is limited by mediocrity. The Shoto is supposed to be the middle ground character whose main game plan is around footsies. So they have a fireball, an anti-air, and some sort of move to get through fireballs themselves. Well, if they're supposed to be mediocre, why is there a top tier Shoto in literally every single game? Well, it should be clear that developers want a new character for beginning players to use. One that's easy to operate and good. But If we take that same game analysis that we did towards grapplers and apply it to the Shoto, you see a character that's the jack of all trades. So everything they do shouldn't be particularly great, just average. They should have average damage, fireballs, footsies, etc. But if you just look at the last few Street Fighter Shotos, we have Luke in Season 1, Ken and Luke, and they had the best damage, the best footsies, some of the best fireballs, top 3. They had good movement, good health. A top tier Shoto is just a character with their stats taken to the max, not the middle. But I wouldn't take that and say Shoto should never be top tier. And that's the same way I feel you shouldn't just see a grappler having very little weaknesses as a top tier and say they shouldn't be top tier either. When a character's top tier, they usually don't have many flaws. That's just part of being top tier. Now, I'm not sure if I heard this from Lord Knight or Jamprof, maybe even Sage, but the most compelling argument I found as to why grapplers shouldn't be top tier was grapplers should not be top tier because grapplers are often given tools in order to get through zoning and be competitive due to their inherent slow and lumbering nature. Every grappler is given some extremely strong tool or gimmick which they can use to deal with the zoning or just armor through moves and be obnoxious. The problem with these moves is that even if the grappler is the worst character in the game, if their tools were put on a mid-tier character, they can shoot that character to top tier stats. Now, even when a Shoto is top tier, at most, the worst you need to deal with is maybe like a 50-50 strike throw, some good fireballs. Maybe in anime games, they'll get like a cool fuzzy to a safe jump. But all these mixes are things that you've seen dozens of times before. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse in some ways, but they're consistently the same. Top tier Soul was just doing close slash strike throw. Ken was doing Dragon Lash strike throw. You know, it's the same concept. But grapplers are very often given brand new setups or just maxed out versions of like these very obscure specific mechanics like armor. And now you have to learn with some brand new armor overhead low thing and dealing with the 50-50 strike throw. Let's look at some of the things grapplers had in other games. In Persona Arena, Kanji had a status effect called Shock. When you get paralyzed, this means you can't perform any movements besides basic system actions such as short hopping and air teching. That means that you can't wake up and jump out of his command grab. Now, on top of that, Kanji has this DP, which I call the precursor to OD Amnesia. His DP is a frame 1 guard point, so you can't safe jump it, and also it beats literally everything. So you can't wake up super him. You can't jump. You're just stuck there trying to figure out how the hell am I going to get his 50-50 off of me. And he just keeps looping that situation. Your only saving grace is that he's slow and very immobile, so it's hard for him to get this all set up. Forte had Quesadilla Bomber, which was like a frame 1 projectile vol move that led into like 4k damage or something. For 400, sorry, for Street Fighter numbers. So you couldn't even throw a fireball, and if you did, you're dead. Like, it's a ridiculous move. It's so easy to react, even the booms. And don't get me started on TR0009 Iron Taker. If this man was top tier, you'd be fighting Happy Chaos the Grappler. He'd be grabbing you full screen. There's nothing you can do. Best neutral. It's absurd. That's why these characters are intentionally hamstrung from the get-go. So, in the end, how do I feel? Well, I'll just start by saying I feel it's obvious that any character should have the right to be top 1 in a video game. It's a fighting game, anybody should be top tier. It really shouldn't matter. Even if top tier Taker would be the most broken thing ever, we've had Happy Chaos. He existed for months. But I do feel that grapplers are often given these tools that aren't meant to be put on a top tier character. Since the character is inherently designed to be one of juxtaposition, great offense, weak neutral, if they're able to overcome that weak neutral, the match starts feeling like you're constantly under pressure. And then when you finally get in on the grappler, now you just got in on a grappler. And then that one tool that was given to them in order to be competitive, to get through neutral, now it becomes the most broken tool in the entire game. I hope you have a good rest of your day and see you in the next video.